Good morning. So we are doing the breakdown today. It is currently the 8th of the 2nd, Wednesday, midweek. So usually this is kind of a very good time for the markets. We're usually getting shaped up for end of the week, or it's always good to just double check your weekly candles and just make sure where they're at, where they could be heading and so forth, and then kind of just have a sort of outlook on where the weekly close could be, and if it is there, what would that mean for the charts. So it could also help with positioning yourself. So let's jump straight into the weekly breakdown for Wednesday. So as we can see on the DXY, what I do like about it is we did have that very impulsive push, but we did have a little decline from here. Now, this doesn't essentially mean that it's going to come all the way back down. This could just be a little pullback for it to pull up some purchases for it to go. However, we are in line with this trend line, so we have to also be aware that this can just continue to trickle in this momentum, and we can just stay within this squeeze for some time. So that is also a strong possibility. However, just having a little look at this right now, the daily isn't the most progressive candle that I would want to, because it's inside the bar as well. It's negative. Looking at how price is, it's correctively squeezing lower. We have found some level of a ground here, so I wouldn't be surprised if we did have a little push down and then we just completely engulfed, went straight back up. That's a strong possibility as well. So definitely keep your eye on the US dollar, because that can also have a counteract on whatever else you have on watch. But for myself, I have Euro USD and I have USD Yen, which, for example, if this was to start going bullish, then I would start to look for opportunity on USD Yen, for example, or shorts on Euro USD. So jump. Sweet. So having a little look at this, we can see that we've kind of scooped up. I wouldn't really class this as a hook because it's not the most obvious, but I would say that essentially we're looking at this sort of squeeze. It's not the cleanest, but at the same time, it's more probable that, given how price is kind of being at the moment, we could be forming some sort of complicated sort of structure. We could still come down, get a little bit messy, and form something like this. And it comes out a little bit larger. So I would give this a little bit more time if it has to do something like that, and then we get something like this. I'll be more favorable for this particular pattern for the short, more so than this override, because right now, looking at this override, it's not really the sort of price action that I would be looking to get involved in. So more than happy to wait for this one to develop. I'll be looking for price to get to this area. Easiest thing to do would be to set an alert and then go off with your day and enjoy yourself. You can set it a little bit sooner if you think that you're usually going to be quite far away from your access to your computer, but that's usually what I do. I do believe you need to get a premium membership, or something other than the base package, which gives you adverts, so you can actually set as many alerts as possible. But obviously, as somebody who's only trading a particular amount of pairs every day, you may only have 2 or 3 pairs on watch, so you may not need to do that anyway. But just double check that, because I'm not too sure if you will need that. If you do need that, by all means, all you have to do is kind of click over here. Well, I think you can go on the main website and do it, but I think you go onto your account, you go on account and billing. If you want to use my referral, by all means you can use it. That would be super cool. It's just basically my name, Kunal Ramchan, at the end of this, and you know what, I'll put that in the description. If you want to use it, you can use it. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to. If you do use it and it pops up and lets me know, hopefully by that point my channel would have grown, and I'll be more than happy to throw you a little present or something, if I've got anything there to give. So yeah, we could jump on a call, whatever. I mean, I'm all about giving and sharing. So yeah, essentially that's just it, really. So Aussie US dollar is pretty much prime for me at the moment. So this is one that I'm definitely going to be having an eye on today. What I'm looking at is this sort of inflection point over here, and how price is actually gravitating towards it. So it doesn't really matter about this top line. This line here is actually super irrelevant to me. It doesn't matter at all. What actually matters now is that we get a push up and a push down. So even though that we have this sort of corrective, impulsive price action, it's not the easiest to kind of determine, but this has got potential for it to go further. However, something like this, I would incline for an entry. If we pushed up and we pushed back in somehow, even like this, That's more than enough. The risk entry is something that sometimes I will dabble with, but at the moment in time, just because of how the structure is laid out, there's a possibility that even if I did take an entry here, and I was like, okay, I'll take that, I could probably squeeze in maybe around about 20 pips just to be extra protected there. What am I protecting against? Okay, there's quite a lot. Do I need to put that much? Not really. So I can squeeze it to be a little bit less, maybe 10 pip at the top. Probably not for me, but probably let's say about 15. 15 would be suitable. I think 15 would be okay. But then again, it's just like, I don't want to be just taking this trade to just get tagged out and for it to just gravitate higher, because looking at other Aussie pairs, they're not quite ready. So why should I just assume that this will be ready? So I won't assume, I'll basically look for that push up and push down. So I'm going to look for this push up and then wait for it to come back down into the pattern, and then perhaps maybe then within there I can get a trade. If I miss it, I miss it. It happens, but you know, at the end of the day, the quality of the position will always be there. And you know, personally, I've moved from quantity over to quality, and I think, you know, quality will triumph for every day. I've seen people go from 3-4 trades in a month to making 20-30%, to someone making only 6 or 7%, or maybe even minus from taking about 30 trades. So, and I've experienced it. So honestly, waiting for these positions are so much better. And if you do miss them, it is what it is. You know, at the end of the day, you will catch the next one or the one after that. So one thing I do like about Aussie Swiss is obviously the structure and where it is on the higher time frame. So if I just jump over to the daily, which paints just a clear enough picture, we can see that we have this sort of expanding pattern over here. Now, we've actually rejected over here, which there was no way of really determining that this was the point of rejection. However, we did have some sort of inflection point here that we would have been eyeing up. We saw the 1, 2, 3 leading up to it, and then at that point there we have a rejection. Now, what I'm looking at is for this to move, which has moved down impulsively now at this point. Drilling down to the 4 hour, I'm looking for a little bit of structure. So what I'm seeing over here is a 1, 2, 3 potentially, and a 1, 2, 3. So I'm looking for price to kind of just scoop its way back up. Perhaps maybe we'll tap into this and sell off, or we'll come back all the way up here and then maybe tap into an inflection point. That's what I'm less favorable for, but at the same time, it would paint a better picture. So just need to give it some time to develop. But as I'm aware with Aussie pairs, sometimes we don't even come for that third touch. We actually just scoop, go halfway, and then just sell off. So you know, that's something that as well I'm aware of, but more than enough. There's more than enough risk reward in this alone. Even if you were to take a reduced risk entry, which I wouldn't be unfavorable for, you could take a 3-1 to the low, you know. So, you know, for some people who want to be extra protected, and you know, but I think that's just really damaging your risk reward for the potential in this trade. You know, you could really probably squeeze in a very nice trade here, even 16 pips, call it even less, but you could be turning that 3% into a 16% position just by positioning yourself correctly at the right time, by understanding where you want to be positioned within this price action. So that's basically it for Aussie CAD. I will be extra patient for that one as well, and I think this is going to be a phenomenal trade. So keep an eye out for Aussie Swiss. If you don't have it on watch, that's completely fine. There's a few other Aussie pairs on board. As long as you've got some sort of Aussie pair at the moment, I think there's going to be some Aussie CAD. Now this is one that I've definitely been eyeing up. I really love, you know, I was looking for this exactly in this area. What I love the most is that we're almost there. I think it could be a trade which will shape up today, or it could be tomorrow. Looking at how Aussie pairs are, even though they're at where they need to be, we just need to give it time to develop. So looking at Aussie CAD, I think, you know, same situation with Aussie Swiss. Just need to wait for that final development. When we get there, it's going to be phenomenal. We have a 1, 2, 3 leading up to this price structure over here, which is all we really need at this point. Be aware that obviously we can gravitate and make something a little bit more messy, and then we can go, you know. So I wouldn't say get kind of glued with, you know, price action at the moment. I would say just be a little bit aware that, you know, price can gravitate back to this line and then go. It can even drop off a little bit as well. So don't FOMO and get into any trade over here and just be like, yeah, okay, cool, I'm in a trade here, you know, I'll take it to here, and then kind of go short again. At what risk? What's the point? Honestly, you just wait for it to go here, come back up. You know, this can like absolutely come out over here, become a little bit more parallel with this, and then the game's a little bit different. But then at the same time, you might be able to take an entry to go counter long, and that risk reward is a little bit better, because if I was to take a trade in here, let's say which met up with this, so there was a trade in, let's just as an example, I wouldn't take this normally, but There was a trade here, and we took a trade, and there was an entry in here as well after a small push. You know, you could potentially even take a 5% to 7% position there with the potential for it to go further. But at this area here, it's totally not worth it because it's so corrective. You know, even to that high, I think there's probably about 3% there. You know, yeah, 4%, and then to this high, there's about 5%, and then, you know, to that high, you could say 17. But, you know, with the risk that you take in this area, it's much higher. So avoid trying to get into this area here. Look for those sort of particular points. Probably this bit is a little bit more valuable, but I don't think that is really much the angle. I think at the moment we kind of have this sort of corrective price action which can just drop off a little bit, convince you that you've missed out and so forth, but don't get caught up in this crap. I think Aussie CAD's good. Just look for this potential price point here, and then if it goes further, we could look at that point and then maybe gravitate back to the high. So there's definitely some very good potential on the table for Aussie CAD, but Aussie Swiss is definitely Euro Aussie. Now, Euro Aussie is a little bit slow for me at the moment. I mean, I am looking for this sort of price action where we kind of gravitate all the way back up. Given how this section has kind of formed, it's not really the sort of price action I'm looking for at the moment. I think, you know, this definitely has room to very much decline from here. I was really looking for price to come gravitate back up here, but it seems like it's definitely going to take its time. Higher time frame, we are looking at the short. It does look like the short play has potentially began, looking at this very strong sort of price action over here. I'm seeing this 1, 2, 3, this override point over here where we've tapped in twice, had a near miss there. We gravitated higher, but now we've just suddenly started to sell off. I wouldn't class this as a proper sell-off at this point. I would say until we've broken this low here, that's when I'll probably be looking to get into a short position. But at the moment in time, we can still, you know, come back up here and then go in for the short, which is the mega play that I was always looking for. So EA has definitely become one that I definitely have to be extra patient with. It may just be on watch for another week, but even so, I think it's going to be phenomenal for entries, phenomenal for the gameplay, phenomenal for structure. Definitely to be on your A game. And also remember, with this particular pair, nothing is ever so clean. You know, we can get things, but, you know, price like this tends to happen quite a lot where we just extend out, tag people out, and then go. And it seems like, you know, time and time again we're seeing it over here as well. We can see something somewhat similar, doesn't have to be exact, and we can say that, you know, the same thing has happened in this area here. So, you know, we've kind of pushed further, we tapped into this sort of price. There's some context behind it, but at the same time, I would just be extra safe and just play your cards right. You know, this can form into something a little bit less complicated, but, you know, just be on your A game with these trades because they can develop into multiple things, especially with price getting very corrective like this. But for me, I'm just going to keep it extra simple, and I'm going to just wait for something that kind of just works in my favor. So that's basically it for my watch list this week. It is midweek, so we'll have some more coming out tomorrow and the day after, but there's not really much that I can really say is going to happen with EA at this point in time unless we get some aggressive movement. So yeah, let's jump. Looking at GBP CAD now, we can see that we have tapped into this small, well, it's not really small, this significant area where we had the near miss and then we gravitated aggressively and we've pushed down. Now, there's two things about this, right? It's not the most progressive action in terms of a bull movement. This is basically my line in the sand, which I'll put on here. That's my line in the sand. So if we can break above this, that's essentially where I'll be looking to go long. But at this moment in time, you know, we are getting this sort of corrective little momentum, and something like this, or I will probably take this and stick it here and just say, you know, something like this is a possibility where this can just be your very messy middle section over here, and then we come back down over here and we tap into this and then we go, and then the next thing you know, this is the gameplay, right? Is that so much? No, I don't think so. I think that's a very nice ending structure in itself, and I think that is probably a very good gameplay. So essentially, if I'm going to wait for something, this is what I'm going to wait for. That's why I've got GBP CAD on watch, because it can aggressively just sell off, and then if once we've tapped into this area here, this is where I'll be basically looking to position myself. So Very simple and very easy. All I need to do is set an alert, leave it there, and then I'll come back and then check it later. So that's basically GBP CAD for me. In terms of a risk reward, you know, there's definitely good room for a risk reward in there. Let's just say that we pull back up and then we look for something. 36 pips more than enough. Could be looking at 7% there. Could be looking at 20%. You know, that's a 36 pip stop plus. If we be a bit more realistic and we say about 20, and we position ourselves around about here, still 35%. You know, there's massive potential. You don't have to kind of squeeze the risk reward as tight as possible. You know, you can still make some good percentage. And I think with how the GBP pair is, a lot of them are gearing up for this long, which we're going to see in a minute. So yeah, it's looking very, very nice. If we do get an aggressive little sell-off and then pull back up, that's more than enough as well. I'll then evaluate and reprice myself, but at the moment that is the case. The next one is GBP Aussie, same situation pretty much. It's just with the final ending structure, it's a little bit more, let's say, messier at the moment. Sorry, cleaner, but not the easiest to basically catch, I guess, because it could just be, this is why I said it could be aggressive drop off, but essentially I'll be looking for something like that now. Whereas we could get the mini double bottom below the low, but more so I'll be looking for that 1, 2, 3 drop off and then kind of go for the long. So that's basically it. And this would be my line in the sand essentially. If we can just break aggressively above this, then I'll be looking to go long, but that's a long shot. That's a long shot from where we are now. I think at the moment, let's just wait and see. This was my sort of, if we had a flag over here, then I would have potentially looked to go long, but we didn't have anything. It's now just kind of moving back down, which is more than better for me because I can get a better position and a better price. So I will be waiting for this completion, which is nice because it goes in line with GBP CAD as well. And then if GBP Aussie is going to be going, then we can expect that Euro Aussie might also potentially start pushing up here. And then if it does, we can then position ourselves very, very well on both. But for now, GA is looking great. And so is GC. Yeah, GC. So good stuff. GBP US dollar. So GBP US dollar is also one that I think just needs a little bit of time to develop. I mean, right now I think there is probably a flag in here that you could probably take short. It's just not one that I think I would entertain immediately. You know, something like this and then, you know, something like that, but it's not sort of price action I'm looking to get involved in. I think kind of just drilling down to the 1 hour, we can see that price just needs some time to develop. I think what we could probably see is something like this, and then we kind of just go, and then this just works in line with whatever else is happening in the background. And yeah, this then could be enough to just take it short, and then we just see price drop off, which at that point there you wouldn't really be surprised. And then if you position yourself on this, you know, even with a pretty relaxed stop loss, 34 pips, you know, to this low about 3%, and then to this low around about 5%, and then about 12%, 10%. So definitely some very good room. I think looking at higher time frame, it's very probable that we'll see something like that. So I think in terms of this could be a Thursday trade. I don't think it's going to be a today trade. But if we do get that aggressive little push up here, then I'll be extra aware. So would I say it's worth putting an alert? Absolutely. It's just worth noting that when price gets there, I know what I'm looking for. And it's a good thing to just make a habit of doing this throughout all your charts, because what it will do is kind of just indicate you, even if you don't have it on watch. Because what I do is when I have my pairs on watch, I switch over to this view, and then I don't look at the other ones, so I don't have to click through loads of stuff. I'm only focusing on what I'm focusing on for that day. And then if some alert comes off, then I can just go off and check it and say, oh, interesting, okay. So my morning forecast, which was this, changed because my evening forecast, a lot of other pairs shaped up, a lot of volatility came in the market, perhaps maybe some news came out, GDP growth rates month on month, and then boom, price changed, and we're where we wanted to be a lot sooner than we expected. So that's something to also bear in mind. GBP yen, this one I think is very, very good. It's just a little bit slower than I expected at this point. You know, I was looking for a little bit more, but at the moment we have this sort of middle section filled now, which kind of makes it a little bit more probable that if we do go higher, you know, it's a lot better because we're coming from structure. and very nice structure. So this sort of pull up would be something that I'll look for now, and then I'll have to wait. Once again, this could be a late next week trade. It could be something that may not even fully shape up. We just need to wait for it. But that long position is there, so if the long position presents itself, you could definitely look to take it. But I think with the way the market is moving, I'm not going to look to go long. I think I'll be more in favorable for potentially a short play, but yeah, I'm not going to take a long. I think I'll look for the short, but even so, this play is a very good run. I think, you know, if you could position yourself in there correctly, that's a bit of a risky trade that I'm marking on now, but even so, with that, there's probably a 6% in there to protect yourself. But yeah, so I would definitely keep an eye on that for sure. I think there's some potential for GBP yen and USD yen, which I'm going to go into a second. But for the one that I would take, I think this one is definitely prime. And the last one I'm looking at is USD yen. Now, the thing with USD yen is I had this inflection point on, and it's funny because I decided to take it off just because of personal reasons. I just thought, you know, I thought that price was going to go a little bit further, and that was a personal mistake, but there was definitely a very good trade in there. And I think if I was eyeing up on it and I was laser focused, I would have probably made a better position. But I think because I had another position opened, and I did make 4.9% on Aussie Swiss, you know, I think that was just personal preference. But at the moment, kind of just reevaluating it, there was a solid position in here, even with a reduced risk. Could have definitely been running around about another 6% there, and then this is the one that I probably would have opted in for, and it would have roughly been around about 17%. But even so, you know, it's just a trade. I love USD yen. I mean, structurally, as you can see, phenomenal. Times like this definitely make you love being a trader because you can really capitalize and make some good money. But anyway, moving into this particular pattern here, we can see that, you know, we've moved down aggressively. Now, it would be no surprise to me if I saw this start to aggressively start pushing back up. Looking at the DXY and how it's forming, we are looking at that short play, and then for USD yen, it could definitely start short playing down to here. But at the moment, we do have that near miss to this. So with that in place, what I'm looking at is, can this just gravitate higher and tap into the next zones and then create something larger before we short? If we do that, that would be great. We could also have this slant head and shoulders, which would really set the bar. But at the moment, like I said, I'm not too fast. I mean, this can still be enough, and we just get a corrective squeeze all the way down to this before we come back up. So there's a few variations on the table. I wouldn't get caught up with anything, but there was a phenomenal trade in here for sure. And well done to whoever caught it, because that was one that I personally just opted out not to take. But now I kind of have a little bit of regret to it, because I should have just taken it with a short risk. But anyway, let's move forward, and yeah, I just want to wait and see how this develops. Now we can see that obviously we are pushing down aggressively at this point, so this could just be a correction to continue, and then we might see it pull back up later. We just have to wait and see. So definitely going to keep my eye on this one on the sidelines, but I don't think I'm going to be able to take any trades on it. I was hoping for, you know, price to just essentially do this, where we had this sort of push up, and then at this point here, it was looking like, oh, you know, we've had that retrace, we've tapped into this low, we filled the gap. Is it possible that we can create something here and then continue? So that's basically what I was looking at. The sensible sort of entry would be here, which would be about quite large, but then to the current high, it wasn't really in favorable for the risk reward, about 2%, so you could protect yourself. And then to here you had roughly around about 5%, and then just under 10, or probably 10. So yeah, I mean, it's preference. It all comes down to preference at the end of the day, but overall phenomenal. It looks great. I think structurally, you know, we're seeing some good movement across the pairs. I think eyes on Aussie pairs for sure, Euro pair for sure. I think just give it some time to develop. There isn't really much to go off by, but I think once it's actually set and price is actually starting to move in the correct direction, we're going to really get positioned well. So keep an eye on Aussie pairs. I don't think I'm going to be putting much else on watch today. I think I'll definitely keep GA on the sideline. I think GBP CAD is a phenomenal one. It just needs a little bit of time. So I'll personally take these off, but if the alert springs on, I'll put them back on. I don't think I really have much else to really focus on. So I've just got these Aussie pairs, which I'm more than happy to just keep on watch, because when they shape up, they will shape up nicely. And then if anything else triggers, that's it. So that's basically where I'm at. I think the one thing that I would say be extra careful with is Aussie US dollar. Only reason being is, even if this does come up to this section here, don't be surprised if it extends and goes further. That's the only one that I would say, because looking at how other pairs are moving, it doesn't look like the USD is ready to sell off completely. Ready to sell off, to start purchasing, to start going up. It looks like it's selling off. So if it is selling off, the Aussie pair is going to start appreciating and get a lot stronger. So keep that in mind. And we have tapped in and we're coming from a strong point. So this trade is actually of low probability at this point. Even though we have a little bit of the highest time structure on our side, it does form as, quite a neutral position. So hence the reason why I would say don't just get caught up in this trade immediately, because it may not be the most profitable trade. Regardless, have a good week. Catch you in the next video, and don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button. Thank you for watching.